It's 11:14 on a Wednesday night. Nothing catastrophic happened today, just the slow accumulation of it, the kind of weight that has no single source and no clean explanation. You don't remember opening the app. You remember the cart being full. You remember the checkout button, and then the quiet that followed it. The package will arrive in 2 days. Right now, that feels like enough. Think about the last time you bought something and couldn't quite explain why. Not a big purchase, not a planned one. You were tired or slightly off, or just carrying more than the day should have asked. And then your phone was in your hand, and then it wasn't, and something had been bought. You didn't feel excited. You felt finished. Just for a moment. That moment has a name. This is not about impulse control or budgets or spending less. It is for the person who already knows their patterns and still cannot explain why knowing changes nothing. What this goes into is not the transaction itself. It goes underneath it, into the part that most financial conversations never reach. This is not a story about careless spending. The person at the center of this pattern tracks their money carefully. Color-coded spreadsheet, Sunday evenings, every category labeled. They know where it goes. They've built systems, deleted the apps, tried the rules, had the conversation with themselves more than once, and more than twice. And then Friday arrives. Not with any single dramatic moment, just quietly. Somewhere between the last hour of work and the drive home, something fills. Not the cart, the person. By Sunday, back at the spreadsheet, there are 3 purchases from Friday night. They don't fully resolve into memory. Not forgotten, just unclear. The decision happened somewhere between the feeling and the phone. The phone moved faster than the thought ever did. That is not irresponsibility. This happens on one floor. This happens on another. The gap between understanding a pattern and being free of it is not a gap of information, not a gap of willpower or intention. It is a gap between the part of the mind that can describe what is happening and the part where it is actually happening. A different system, running on different rules, largely unreachable by the part that reads articles and makes plans. So, what is actually happening? There is a specific sensation that arrives the moment you click purchase. Before the item ships, before it exists anywhere near you, a small release, a brief settling, as if something that had been holding tension finally let go. That feeling is not about the thing. The person who clicks confirm on a Tuesday evening and immediately feels a fraction lighter before the confirmation email arrives, before anything has moved or shipped or changed, is not imagining it. Something real just happened, just not the thing they think happened. It is about the decision. The moment the brain registers that something unresolved has moved, that wanting has shifted into having acted, the relief arrives. Not when the package does, before. Think about opening a box and feeling almost nothing. 3 days ago, the wanting felt urgent, even necessary. Now it is just an object in your hands, ordinary and solid, and slightly smaller than the wanting was. The wanting was more real than the having. The brain does not cleanly separate the anticipation of relief from the relief itself. When the decision lands, when the outcome feels secured, the system responds as though something has already been received. The checkout button doesn't mark the beginning of getting something, it marks the end of wanting it. The item is just an invoice. By the time it arrives, the emotional transaction is already closed. Whatever the purchase was responding to has already moved on to the next hour, the next low pressure, the next quiet reaching towards something that hasn't been named yet, which is why the feeling returns, which is why the cart fills again. Not because something is wrong, because the mechanism completed its cycle and reset.
There used to be a gap, not a long one, not a pause requiring discipline or reflection, just enough space between feeling something and buying something, enough for the feeling to shift before it became a transaction. A moment in which the want could have passed through without leaving a purchase behind. That gap is nearly gone now. The person who picks up their phone to check one thing, not to shop, not even to browse, just to check something small and put it back down, looks up and 20 minutes have passed without registering a single one of them. Not one decision made in that time, dozens of micro-decisions that each felt like none. The restlessness that arrives afterward wasn't created by the scroll, it was located by it. The gap between feeling something and buying something used to be longer. One-click purchasing didn't introduce a new human weakness. It removed the only natural space that existed between an impulse and its outcome. The pause was not an obstacle to be engineered away. It was the moment the feeling had to survive, and often didn't, because feelings change when they're made to wait. Infinite scroll produces something specific, not satisfaction, just enough stimulation to stay, never enough to feel complete. The state it leaves is nearly indistinguishable from the state that precedes spending. Low, hovering, reaching towards something without a name for what it should be. And notifications arrive in the window right after something difficult ends, when attention has surfaced but hasn't found anywhere to land yet. That window is small. It closes in seconds. The environment has learned to place a spending trigger inside it, not through conspiracy, but through the accumulated logic of systems built to locate and hold attention at whatever cost. That moment, the low one, the hovering one, the one that arrives between tasks, it is exactly the moment this has always been about.
The quiet after clicking purchase is real. It settles. It lasts. And then the original feeling returns. Not changed, not answered, just reset. The person who buys something small on a difficult Sunday afternoon, something practical, something that seemed reasonable, feels the relief settle in, genuinely, for about an hour. And then, by evening, the same low weight is back. By Tuesday, the thing is somewhere in the apartment, still in the bag, unopened. The bag is still there, not because they forgot, not because they stopped caring, because it was never about the thing. The thing was a container for a feeling that had already completed its transaction the moment the checkout button was pressed. The financial number is visible. It appears on statements. It can be calculated, confronted, given a category. The number is real, but the cost is not the cost. The cost is measured in loops, not line items. The financial number is a symptom. The cycle is the condition. Every time the loop completes, the restlessness, the reach, the brief quiet, the return, it becomes more embedded. Not more effective, more familiar. The brain doesn't evaluate whether a pattern is working. It recognizes what has been repeated. Over time, the loop becomes the default. Not because the spending escalates, because nothing else has filled that space. Because sitting with the feeling has never had enough practice to feel like a real option. Letting it exist without resolving it has always felt like doing nothing. It was never nothing.
Some people have already had a moment they did not plan for. Not a decision, not a realization arrived at through effort. Just a second of quiet recognition, arriving without invitation. A woman at her kitchen table, phone already in hand, something already half decided in the cart. And for a moment, before anything completed, something shifted. She was aware of what had been there before the pull appeared. The meeting that ran long, the conversation that landed wrong, the particular exhaustion of a day that asked too much and returned too little. She didn't put the phone down. She completed the purchase. But she knew for one clear second what she was actually doing. Not the spending, the weight it was answering. And that second was unlike anything that reading or planning had ever produced. What if the spending was never the problem? That question doesn't arrive as a solution. It arrives as a reframe. And a reframe doesn't tell you what to do. It changes what you understand about what you're already doing. Spending in this pattern is not weakness. It is a solution, an imperfect one, a temporary one, but a genuine response to something real, a feeling that needed somewhere to go and found the only door that was already open. The urge carries information about the state that preceded it, about what was already present before the phone was in the hand. That information has been bypassed in favor of the transaction, treated as fuel rather than recognized as signal. Nothing here needs to be fixed. Something needs to be understood. Those are different things. It's 11:14 on a Wednesday night. The phone is in hand. The cart is full. The checkout button is one tap away. None of that has changed. The package will still arrive in 2 days. The feeling that filled the cart is still there, sitting just behind the glow of the screen, unchanged, waiting to return after the brief quiet passes. The person who looks at the cart in this moment, the same screen, the same Wednesday wait, the same low reaching, and finds something slightly different there. Not a reason to stop, not a resolution about what comes next, just a different quality of knowing, recognition arriving without being invited. They know what they're holding now, not the phone, the feeling.